J-Lo create vibes now.
Welcome to another episode of the Get Love Like Mine podcast. We are your humble hosts. I am Keisha Amos. This is my beautiful husband, Sam Amos. This is season 3, episode 7. If you're not already following us, make sure that you go and follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Get a Love Like Mine podcast. And if you guys have topics or questions that you want answered, feel free to send us an email to getalovelikemindepodcast@gmail.com and put Ask the Amoses in the subject line. We pray that you guys found our little 3-part series that we put together talking about questions you should ask yourself when considering marriage, questions about the other party. So we hope that you found that useful.
Got a lot of feedback.
Yeah, lots of feedback. So how was your week this week, babe?
Been a busy week as usual. It's getting close to the holidays, so the type of work I do, it generally picks up this time of year. But it's not bad. It's grateful to have a job. I listened to a guy at church not at church, but at a men's group to have testimony of how he had been laid off 5 times, and I'm grateful I've never been laid off once, so I couldn't imagine dealing with the ups and downs that he went through. But so I'm grateful.
Oh, that's good. I have a busy week. TSU's homecoming is coming up, and we have our legacy ball coming up. Looking forward to that. Some of you know that we started a title company. I am the fee attorney for Valero Title. We're having a re-grand opening for that this week, so I had court today. It's just been a busy week. But of course I love spending this time with my husband, so we make time to do this podcast and just discuss topics that God puts on our heart. And this week, I've had quite a few cases recently, which kind of put this topic on my mind. But when I prayed about, prayed and asked God to, give me the vision for a topic for this week, the topics kind of coincided. So I have a couple of cases where the parties were married or in a relationship and they broke up, and one parent was the the primary custodian, and the other parent was not, but that other parent got remarried. And it just changed the dynamic of everything. So we kind of want to talk about, not those cases specifically, but we want to talk about the aftermath of divorce or a relationship, and then go into having a step parent. Back in the day, the nuclear family used to be mom, dad, and the kids in the house. Every now and then you have the grandparent in there, usually mom's mom, sometimes dad's mom, whatever the case. Now I feel like the nuclear family is almost always a blended family. You have, so many couples that remarry. Either the man has children from a previous relationship, or the woman, or both. And so I feel like it's a topic that could stand a discussion on our part. So I think we should probably give our own kind of testimony to this. I know we've discussed it before, but not necessarily in this way. So for me personally, when I divorced my first husband, it was like almost like a death in the family. I felt like a complete failure. I felt like I had just ruined my daughter's life. I felt like very guilty about making her only be able to see her dad on the weekends. Of course, I would, offer time outside of that, but just to have a court order that says this is when you can see your child, to me, it made me feel guilty because that's not what I wanted for her. I wanted, my parents were divorced, so number one, I never wanted to get a divorce. But once I did, I didn't want to alienate her in a way that kind of made her not have that close relationship with her dad. So like I said, it really, really made me feel bad. And that was a time when I really drew closer to God. Like I relied on God for everything because I just really was in a bad place. What was your experience?
It was a little different because I was not the custodial parent. Mm-hmm. Like you were, your daughter got to stay with you. So I did get a divorce from my first wife, and that was probably one of the top three, easily one of the hardest things to do, was to be away from my kids because they were so young. Mm. And so of course you can't really make them understand. Mm. So you spend a lot of dark nights by yourself wishing they understood, this is not about y'all. And then that other parent may put in their head, oh, he don't want you, or that's why he left. He didn't want to raise you or whatever. So I went through a lot of being talked down upon. But our pastor in the church where we attended, and we went to marriage counseling, he said, you don't ever stay together in a dysfunctional marriage just for the kids. Mm-hmm. Because then those kids are going to be part of an unhealthy environment. All this, you sleep upstairs, I sleep downstairs, nobody communicating, I don't like you, and then you go out, okay, well, if we ain't gonna be together, I'm gonna go date somebody else, and then where you been, and all this is in the kids' eyes. Mm-hmm. So it was tough for me just to actually initiate and to go through the process of it, knowing that my kids were too young to understand what was going on, and I really couldn't explain it to them. Yeah. So that was one of the hardest things I had to deal with. But like you, I prayed about it many days, and I also got real close to God. And I read a lot. I read the Bible a lot. Mm-hmm. I found a Bible I can understand, and I did a lot of reading, and it helped me out. It helped me through some tough times. Not all of them. Some of them were just, you just miss your kids if you love them. But yeah, it was tough going through it.
I think when my parents got divorced, my step parent situation, I'll just add this before we go into it. My brother's dad and my mom got married or started dating when I was in 8th grade. They got married like right before I went to the 9th grade. And I'm not going to use the word hate because I don't hate anyone, but I definitely hated that situation. And I went through a real depression. Like on my mom's wedding day, I remember going to her and begging her, please don't marry this man. Like we talked about last week about someone's energy, the energy how they make you feel when you're around them. I mean, he just made me feel miserable. I mean, I hate to say that about someone, but when you think of a step parent for your kids, you want someone that's going to come in. They have to take an active role. Now, let's differentiate between a step parent at the non-custodial parent's house as opposed to a step parent at the custodial parent's house. You know, those kids are only going to have one mom and one dad, and hopefully only one step mom and stepdad at a time. But when the custodial parent remarries, that step parent is in the house 24/7. Now, the non-custodial parent, you might see that step parent, you know, on the first, third, and fifth weekends. It's a little different because they're not raising you. And they're not really completely responsible for you. Like, they're responsible for you on the weekends when you come. But that custodial parent, when they remarry and they have a husband or wife who is in the house 24/7, that parent really is going to take a lot of care of your kids. And to have someone who doesn't show any interest in your kids, that person, speaking personally, my stepdad really made me feel like he wished I were gone to my dad's house at all times.
You see it all the time. I see that all the time. Yeah,
he did not make me feel. I felt unwelcome in my own house. And this is a house this was my dad's house. So, you know, when the divorce happened, my mom got the house, and then this man moved in, and he made me feel like a stranger in my own house. And so, you know, that was my experience from a step parent. My dad never remarried. Now, he did have girlfriends who lived with him. He had 2 of them who lived with him. And so they were responsible for me on the weekends when I went. But my dad always made the weekends so fun that I had fun with the girlfriend as well.
And see, I saw that when you were outlining the custodial versus the non-custodial parent, and some folks don't look at it like that. When the custodial parent remarries, that this is a constant person in the house versus when you're only coming on every other weekend. Mm-hmm. Well, that new step parent, they can just think of fun things to do and initiate them on the weekend, so it's all joy and fun. Versus, you know, who didn't do these dishes? Take this trash out, and that's
and then so when your mom, who is generally the custodial parent, is fussing at you, then your stepdad, you know, chimes in to say, "Didn't your mom tell you to wash those dishes?" Or "Didn't your mom tell you, you know, to get off the phone?" It just creates those narratives that are a little different when the kids are only there for the weekend.
So tell me this. You were what, 12, 13, 14?
When I got the step parent?
Yes.
13.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Because I can't imagine my daughter coming to me. My daughter coming to me at 13 saying, "Dad, please, please, with all my might, don't marry this lady." What does a parent say to that?
My mom said that I was almost grown and she needed to live her life for her, basically. She was in love with this man, and that was this decision that she was making. And I can't really find fault in that, because even though I do not feel like I was almost grown at 13, I do feel like she should have made the decision for her, you know, because she's the grown-up. Like, kids don't get to decide those type of things for you. But I also feel like my input, she should have strongly considered it.
I I feel the exact same way. I'm just sitting here listening to it and thinking about that. Like, I don't know about maybe postponing the wedding, but in my vision, looking at that on the outside looking in, that dysfunction went way too far before it, and I don't know if it really never got addressed. That addressing it that way, saying, look, this is my decision, you about to be grown and on your way, not at 13 though, but that is going to have to be dealt with.
Mm-hmm. Plus, I don't remember what my reason was. Because, you got to have a reason.
Well, you said you felt alienated in your own house.
But I didn't feel that until after the marriage.
Okay.
I just flat out didn't like him in the beginning. Because he wasn't living there yet. But once they got married, like, high school was a great time for a lot of people. For me, high school was not a great time. I literally was going through a depression. I would stay in my room 24/7. My mom was already strict, so it's not like I could go places. So I just would stay in my room all the time, and I lost a lot of weight. I remember when I would go to my dad's house, my dad would be like, what's going on with you? Why are you looking so skinny? Like, I just was in a bad space mentally. Now, before, like, the day that I went to her and was like, please don't marry this man, it was, I feel like when you are pursuing a new relationship and that person has kids, you have to develop some kind of relationship with the kids.
Absolutely.
Especially if you're going to be moving into the kids' house. Like, you're moving in on their space, a space that they grew up in. It'd be different if y'all got married and bought a house together. Like, everyone's moving into a new house. But when you're moving into their space, you have to find a way to make them comfortable and to, like, forge your own relationship with the child. And he didn't do that. He didn't forge any type of relationship with me. My mom tried to, like, force it. But even me being who I was like, I'm thinking of one thing in particular. It was my birthday coming up, and I wanted to. They used to have these makeup stands in the mall, fashion fair makeup. Mm-hmm. You remember fashion fair makeup?
I know I never wore those, but
well, you grew up in a house full of women. You know about fashion.
That's why I was out there shooting.
Well, I wanted to get my face made up for that one day, and I wanted to begin wearing makeup. I was going to be starting high school, and I wanted to begin wearing makeup. Now, my dad had zero problem with me wearing the makeup that I wanted to wear, which was basically eyeliner and lipstick. He didn't have any problem with it. But I didn't really know anything about makeup. I just thought it looked cool when you get your makeup done in the mall. So I asked my mom if I could get my makeup done in the mall for my birthday. And then I would, I wanted to buy whatever makeup that they used or suggested. She told me to ask him. Ask my stepdad.
Ouch.
And that kind of rubbed me the wrong way, because it's like, what does he have to do with it? I'm asking you for a birthday gift. And, well, anyway, I asked him because I wanted it, and he said yes. But he also said something like, hopefully one day you'll learn to call me Dad. And that was it. That was the, no, he ain't the one. Because you're not my daddy. And I don't need to call you daddy. Like, my daddy is not deceased. I see my daddy every weekend. Not even first, third, and fifth weekend. I saw my daddy every weekend. So, I feel like he was overstepping by asking me to call him Dad. And I feel like she was pushing me into overstep to where I have to ask him for a birthday gift that I'm asking you for. I just felt like that was unnecessary. And then once I knew he was going to be moving into our house once they got married, that's when I was like, please, on her wedding day, that morning, please don't marry this man. Like, she was pregnant with my little brother, and I knew the only reason they were getting married is because she was pregnant. I was like, I know I said I didn't want this baby, but I promise you I'll help you take care of him. You don't have to marry him just for this. I told her I wouldn't ask for nothing. Like, I was willing to do whatever to get her to not move that man in the house, but it didn't work out, and it ended up being a miserable time for me. Which, what I was about to say, was really affected two things. Number one, how I wanted to be as a step parent. Like, if and when I got married again, what kind of step parent did I want to be? But also, it made me look at how I want who's ever my first husband married, what the step parent needed to be like. Like, I needed to ensure that my daughter didn't go through the same things that I went through. I was already feeling bad that I had made her dad a weekend dad. So I really wanted to make sure that whoever was her stepmom was going to be, she was going to have a good relationship with him. I wasn't one of those who was like, I don't want no woman around my kids. Like, no, because I know you. And I know you need a woman there to help take care of you. So you definitely I need one to take care of my daughter. So that my own personal experience with step parenting, or having a step parent, really affected, like I said, who I wanted to be around my daughter and who I wanted to be as a step parent for my step kids.
I was grateful. I'm grateful I didn't have to go through that. Like, my parents separated, but like, we were all pretty grown. Mm-hmm. And then, like, my mom never remarried before she passed away. My dad did remarry, but again, we were all adults that had our own place. So getting to know her, or just being cordial with her as a stepmom, or being my dad's new wife, it really wasn't hard, because we didn't just come around like that. Mm-hmm. Anyway, we were all trying to figure out who we were. But I couldn't imagine my daughter coming to me begging me not to get remarried. But it's just amazing to have to deal with, or see some of these scenarios where these kids go through so much, not knowing, who to open up to, or who they should be friendly with, or you got one parent talking down on the other one. I mean, I've seen it all, I've heard it all. Mm-hmm. And these kids, I can remember a time early after my divorce where I would get my kids on the weekend. They would come on Friday and leave on Sunday. They would come on Friday, and man, it was like a funeral. Nobody saying nothing. Everybody shut down. Everybody in their turtle shell. Like, they don't know how to react. Mm-hmm. I don't know. I wasn't in that other house that whole week or whole 2 weeks that y'all were over there to even know what all y'all have heard, but y'all heard something. Mm-hmm. For you to come over here and be like, we can't even, we feel out of place just talking. But then by Sunday, when it's time to go back, everybody's come out of their shell and having a good time and laughing and talking and eating McDonald's or whatever. Mm-hmm. And now nobody wants to go back home. And then 2 weeks later, we start all over again. They come over, nobody's saying nothing. How's school? Fine. Like, oh my goodness. So us as parents, custodial parents, step parents, have to realize and please take into consideration the damage that you can do to these kids. And I'm not saying don't get a divorce because I'm scared, my kid's gonna jump off a cliff or something. What I'm saying is, don't be that parent that the kid's going and begging, hey, please don't marry this person. Be the parent that makes that kid feel welcome, however it may be. And now, it don't mean just flooding them with toys and gifts. A lot of it is what's the thing we use in relationships and brothers and sisters and family. Everything revolves around that one word: communication. And it sounds like your stepdad communication line wasn't all that great.
He didn't communicate with me at all.
See, and then now here you are putting your mom in the middle, where I'm sure no parent wants to be in the middle, but she has a teenage daughter that can think for herself. She's not 3.
Right.
You know, she can think for herself, and I don't feel great about this, Mom. At the bare minimum, can we go somewhere and talk about this? Or can the 3 of us talk about this? Because I can imagine you saying that to your mom, and then she bringing it to her husband and be like, guess what? She's begging me not to marry you, and now...
I never even thought about that she took it to him.
Could you imagine?
Yeah, his and our relationship never got good. Like, there was never a time.
So if she did take it to him, and he probably could have instantly got attitude with you, like, how dare you? You're just a kid. You don't have no say so in this. Well, I'm a human also. So while so many people are affected, is what we're trying to get to from divorce and separation, and my goodness, the things that come out of your mouth when you may think the kids not listening or paying attention. Kids hear and see everything.
Yeah.
There's a tape recorder that's running in the background the whole time. Just because they didn't say nothing to you about it. They heard it and they saw it. Kids are way smarter than you give them credit for. You might think they was watching TV when you was on the phone. Or when this is the worst. Talking on the phone while they in the back seat.
Oh, yeah.
They soaked up all that conversation. They might have been looking out the window.
Or they might have had their tablet in their hand and you thought they was just listening to the tablet, but they heard everything you said. That's why it's important not to discuss what they call grown folks' business in front of your kids.
In front of the kids.
But yeah, it never even dawned on me that she would have gone back to tell him what I said. But I'm sure she did, and that might be why, like I said, he and I never got on. We never got on solid ground. So
if you going down the line of, how do we fix this? What do you say? Let's say you're the mom that's in the middle, and you take this to your fiance. How do we fix this? Where do we go from there?
Well, we definitely need to hear her out. Like, we need to hear the child out to see what is the reason. Now, I'm not saying it's kind of like they do in the court. In court, when the child is 12 years old or older, the judge, if you ask the judge to talk to the child, the judge has to talk to the child. So I feel like we can talk to the child, but that doesn't necessarily mean I'm going to do what the child says to do. But we can make it an open dialogue
to see what the concern is.
And see what the concern is. And then maybe if, the 3 of us had sat down and talked, he could have alleviated whatever concern I had. He could have told me, well, no, it won't be that way. I'll make the effort to, for you and I to build a relationship. But it was kind of like, I didn't even refer to him as my stepdad. I referred to him as my mom's husband. So it was like, this is their house and I'm just somebody who lives in one of these rooms.
The kid.
Yeah. That was how, like, we there were no functions that we attended together, like, let's all go to the mall, or let's all go to Astroworld, or let's all go to a play, or whatever. We didn't do anything together. It was them or me and my mama. It was not the three of us. So, and once my brother came, it was me, him, and my mama, or him, his mama, and his daddy. Like, it wasn't, I don't feel like either one of them made an effort to include me. And like I said, I went to my dad's house every weekend anyway, so that might be why I didn't do any functions with them. But if I were the mom in that situation, I would make that effort. Even if we sat down, had this discussion, the child said, "I don't want y'all to get married," and I was feeling like you only got 4 more years here and you'll be gone, and I want to marry this man, I'm going to go ahead and marry this man, I still would have made the effort to try to mend that relationship, because even though I don't want to be in the middle, I am the only
common denominator.
Yeah, I'm the only one that can bridge the gap.
Yeah, I can see that's a really tough spot to be in as the parent. But when you're an adult and you move on in that way, you move on and find someone else, all that has to be a part of your thought process. I can't throw my kid away. I don't care if they are getting, because we had asked the Amoses about a older daughter that couldn't get along with the new right. Like, so even you were 13, but I think in that, as Amos, she was like in her 20s or 30s or 40s, whatever it was. That's always gonna still be your flesh and blood. That's still your kid.
Right.
So with that being said, yeah, I don't have to cultivate this whole thing into, what if you move back in, or if you live with us or whatever. But we have to communicate on this. We have to communicate on this. That new fiance, whatever it is, has no purpose to just disregard you. Like, you're not invisible. You're a real person. And truth be told, you were here before.
And will be here after.
I was here. Yeah, I was here before you. So, I can understand how tough it would be to be in the middle of that. But you got to have your big boy pants on and be ready to get down and fix that. Or at least work on it. Now, I would hope that this person that you're planning on joining together with and making part of your family, that, you guys both have the same belief, but you both believe in Christ. So, number one, that's going to make things easier to navigate with. So, at the bare minimum, we can at least all come together. We can all pray together. Now, I don't know how many of my listeners took my advice. Huh? And go pray with your spouse. I know that don't have nothing to do with this episode, but I'm going to say it again. Just do it. But you have you came into my kid's life. You believe, like, we have the same belief. We kind of grew up, we both believe in Christ. So we've had many, many times we joined hands and prayed with all the kids. We told the kids, we pray for y'all when y'all ain't even here. But there was a time we all stand in the front room holding hands. Don't make that foreign.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? If we can all watch the Astros, we can all watch the Texans or the Steelers or the Saints. Surely we can all come together, and football game lasts 3 hours, so surely we can get in a minute and a half. We prayed around Thanksgiving. Everybody say what they were, thankful for. Everybody prayed in the circle. So these are tools that you're gonna have to keep in your front pocket and be able to pull them out and use them. Please.
Just in thinking about that, how did you feel about marrying me, knowing that I had a daughter, that you were going to be the father figure in the home all the time, not just on the weekends. What was your thought process during that time?
Well, it's a responsibility, as is everything else in life. Like, I'm taking on a new wife, so my role in that is to protect and provide for you and your daughter. And so many things come up along the way. The kids are gonna need clothes, shoes, money. Hopefully we can have times where we just sit down and talk, or pick each other's brain. What do you want to grow up to be? Things of this nature that you will feel comfortable enough around me, just to have conversation with, and not feel like, oh, this guy's a stranger, because you're a stranger. Yeah, my mom knows you like that, but I don't, I don't, and maybe I really don't want to know you like that. I got my own dad. And so, number one, I would never tell that kid, maybe one day you'll call me dad. Why? No. That's not, now, the contrast is crazy because your daughter calls me dad.
Yeah.
But I would never put that on her because you have a biological dad, and I will never be him. I will never disrespect that guy. I don't care how bad of a father he was, how good of a father he was, absentee, here every night, it don't matter. I can never be your dad. I'm not going to disrespect him. That's disrespectful to him to say, okay, yeah, look, you need to start calling me dad now. No, I don't. Now, we can figure out what to call you. Now, we call you Pops or Step Hoodoo, or,
Not Step Hoodoo.
whatever it is. But no, please don't disrespect that man like that, expecting that kid to call you that. I would never put that on your daughter. But there are going to be times when she mess up and do things wrong and needs correction, and we discuss it. But I always, and everybody doesn't have to adopt this, but we always feel comfortable where you discipline your biological kid. I never pull the belt out and put it on Christian. Just like you never pulled the belt out and swung it at any of my kids. But if they needed it, we probably discussed it, or different times you just went straight up. I'll be right back, and we'd handle it and discuss it after it happened. But hey, this is how you and I are one. This is our agreement. This is this is the agreement we come to. This is how we're gonna live in this household. Not you go to work. It's my time to find something wrong with Chrissy and go up there with the biggest belt. I'm gonna beat her while you gone.
Yeah.
And when you see that on the news, you see that in movies. These
and listeners, don't get me wrong. Some people are okay with that. Some people don't mind the step parent being a disciplinarian. It's just for us, because our kids were, Chrissy was 10 when we got married, or 11. Yeah, she was 10. So she was like, the days of her needing a whooping a lot had already passed.
Yeah, they were going out the door anyway.
Like, her whoopings were sporadic after that age. Like, who was that? Stanley Clay said, if you whoop them enough when they're little, you don't have to whoop them but a few times. So
exactly right.
The older they get, they don't need that type of correction. So, like I said, she was 10 when we got married. So it wasn't like I was whooping her all the time to the point where he needed to step in. But we kind of just had that agreement amongst ourselves that if she does something, on the off chance I'm not home and you see her do it, of course I expect you to correct her right then and there. But if it's something she needs a whooping for, I'm going to do it. And same with his kids. If he was at work and the kids were with me, I mean, to be honest, they just weren't bad kids. None of them were. So, but they still were kids that would do stuff that needs correcting. So I would correct them and then tell Dad, when he gets home, or call him at work and say, well, this this is what we're dealing with, and let him handle it however he sees fit when he's, getting home. I'm not calling him saying, you make sure you beat him when you get home. No, it wasn't nothing like that. Like, he's going to parent the way he wants to parent, and I'm going to parent the way I want to parent. And we're each going to step parent the way we see fit. But we discussed it with each other prior to any of the kids being around any of us.
Communicate.
Yeah, so you've got to lay the groundwork for what kind of step parent you're going to be. I started off talking about the cases that I had. And in these cases, the stepmoms are so over, like they act like these are their kids. They act like their name is on the paperwork. And I don't get how you can come into a marriage or a relationship with a man who has kids and just take over. Like, you have to know your place. Like you said, you will never be my daughter's real dad. These kids, and I will never be their mom. So I don't require them to call me mom. I'm Miss Keisha. And, I don't have a problem with that. And the boys still call me Miss Keisha, but my stepdaughter calls me stepmom. And I'm fine with that. Whatever. As long as they're not calling me out of my name, we're good. But I don't overstep to the point where I'm calling their mom, telling their mom, this is what you need to do. While they was over here this weekend, I figured out that one of them is allergic to shellfish. And so you need to make sure that you're not cooking no shellfish when they at your house. Like, you don't get to tell the real parents what to do. You can have your little input. You can be the parent when they're at your house, but you don't get to be the parent at the other parent's house. And I think that's how we stay out of trouble. Like, when my daughter comes home and tells me, like, I remember one time she went to her dad's house. And, I'm thick, so my daughter was thick. She gets it. It's genetic. She gets it honestly. She went to her dad's house, and his new wife, I guess they had a concern with her being overweight. So they decided that she was only going to get healthy snacks, and she couldn't just go in the pantry and get them whenever she wanted. Like, she had to ask for permission before she ate a snack. Now, when she was at my house, she was the only child. So you are not about to ask me to death. If it's in there, go eat it. You don't have to ask me about eating it. And she ate the same stuff I ate. If I had ice cream sandwiches and cookies and stuff, that's what she ate. But, if I started eating healthy and I had fruit and salad and fish, that's what she ate. So I remember she went to his house and called me and was like crying because she couldn't get the snack that she wanted. And I had to break her little heart and say, well, I don't know what to tell you because are you hungry? I mean, are they starving you? No, I ate. I think at the time she told me she had breakfast, lunch, and a snack already. It wasn't dinner time yet. So I'm like, well, I mean, they're not starving you. So what do you want me to do? I can't tell them how to feed you at their house. Because guess what? They can't tell me how to feed you at mine. So I think a lot of communication needs to be had, even when you're step parenting in another house. Your kids are going back and forth from one house to the other. If the kid's mom had called me and said, hey, baby girl is allergic to shellfish, that's important information for me to have. So I'm not over here making shrimp etouffee for dinner, because that's important. But she can't call here and say, I don't like that you have Rice Krispie treats at your house, and that's not the kind of snacks we have at my house. Well, guess what? You can't run things over here. And, I think I give a lot of credit to my dad, because my dad, I was his only child, and because I didn't like my stepdad, he didn't care for my stepdad, but he never made an issue. Like, he didn't go over there picking fights, and it was one time when my stepdad put his hands on me that my dad told my mom. He didn't say anything to my stepdad. He told my mom, if you let him do it again. But he didn't say anything to him. But, a lot of it is being mature. When you go through a divorce, sometimes it's always a bitter ex who will come in and find fault with everything you have going on with your new spouse. But sometimes it's the parent with the new spouse that is bitter. And they pick fights all the time. So,
Definitely have seen both. Not experienced both, but I have seen both, whether it was in a TV show or a movie or just co-workers, whatever it is. You have to understand that a lot of damage control has to be done here when you go down that road, when kids are involved and they get the short end of the stick so many times. But like you say, if you can find a way to communicate, and when you're the middleman, because a lot of times that middle person is what everybody has in common, is really the only person, not the only person that can fix it, but the person that needs to initiate the work to fix it. These kids are fragile. I can remember being young and not knowing what to think on a lot of stuff. When I look back on it, like things that I should have done and I didn't. I just didn't know how to process what I was seeing or what I was going through or say what I was feeling. But the reward is amazing that these kids, once they get older, when Father's Day come and they read you a poem of what you mean to them, it just break you up. Or, like I say, your daughter calls me dad. I think she even asked, is it okay if I call you dad? Like, now I'm not going to tell you, no, don't ever do that. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, this is your request. Or when you've done your job, your due diligence, you sit here watching TV and my daughter will text you and say, I miss you, I love you. You can't put a price tag on it. That type of stuff is priceless. You have done your job, you've done the road work to be a part of that kid's life in a positive way. To the point where sometimes my daughter will contact you before she calls me about, depending on what it is. But it's a good feeling to be able to communicate with them in that way, and they're not, coming over here and how are you doing? Fine. Are you okay? Yes. You're not fine. Something's wrong with you.
Something's wrong.
And 9 times out of 10, you don't want to talk about it when you're giving answers like that. So, yeah. But just keep in mind, there's so much that can be said about this topic because there's so many entities of people involved, custodial versus, it just goes on and on.
And then even when you get to the grandparents, you think about, because my mom lives with us, so my mom has a pretty close relationship to all the kids, whereas your kids of the grandmother, of course she has a close relationship with your kids, but she doesn't have a relationship with all the kids. But what I can appreciate about her and your ex-wife, I know you probably don't care for her, but we all have a mutual respect. I don't think it started out that way. I think in the beginning there was a little bitterness, which I totally get. I didn't have an issue with. She made a few little catty remarks that I was able to look past because I knew the situation that she was in. That she was in a hurt space, not really a thinking rational space. But now, since I've been in the kids' lives for 10 plus years, she knows that I have the kids' best interests at heart. All of them. And so does their other grandmother, which I love. Like, I saw her in the grocery store, and COVID was going on. She just grabbed me and hugged me. She didn't even care nothing about it. She hugged me because she has a level of respect for me because she knows how I am about the kids. You know, that when you make that decision to marry someone with kids and you're gonna play an active role in that child's life, it's not just the child that you're gonna have to deal with. Like I said, you're gonna have to deal with the other parent. You might have to deal with the other grandparent. You might have to deal with aunts and uncles and cousins. Like your kids have cousins from their mom's side who come over here and hang out all the time. Like, they love me and I love them. But, you know, I am accepting of all of that because I feel like we're all one big blended family.
I would have never imagined that, I guess, looking back at the, you know, how things went during the divorce. But my ex-wife's sister has kids. That kid comes over here now. He's the cousin to my kids. They're cousins. But he comes over and we order out. If he's here, we take his order too. He eats too, and he comes over, get his hair cut. And boy, you see all his teeth. Hey, just like the rest of them, he's a really good kid. You know, and we talk with him about what he plans on doing. He's like, I call him the president, you know, because he's a really smart kid. I know we just love him to death, but he just kind of fits right in. But this is my ex-wife's sister's kid that's over here, and hey, he's always welcome. You're welcome here. Like, this is how we treat people.
I feel like we could go on and on about this topic, so I think what we'll do is save a little bit for next week. So we'll continue with this topic next week and kind of give you guys some step parenting tools and tips or whatever. So I hope that you guys have enjoyed this. We don't have an Ask the Amoses this week, but again, if you have a topic or a question that you want answered, send us an email to getalovelikemindepodcast@gmail.com. And you have anything else?
No.
All right. Well, happy Sunday.